This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 23, Climbing the North Col.
Hey, you.
Well, welcome back everyone to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm John Miller. I want to thank everyone for all the support you guys have been giving me. Thanks for all of the emails. Keep them coming. Really enjoy hearing from everyone. Anyway, let's get back to the podcast. Joining me today is Ben Clark. How you doing, Ben?
Good, John. Chilling.
All right. So last episode you saw, you kind of met the two other climbers who are going to be on this climbing permit, Bertrand and Alan. And this episode, we're going to leave them and me down in base camp, and we're going to go back up to some altitude, and we're going to join Ben as he and some of the other climbers ascend the North Col, get up to, what, about 23,000 feet, Ben?
Yeah, right about 23. Going big.
So that's the first major camp past advanced base camp. So let's climb the North Col. Here we go.
Nice. Cool. Pasong action.
Yeah.
Pasong was one of the keys when you go to the Himalaya. A lot of people don't know is that the higher you get, it's the success isn't always attributed to being a great athlete. I definitely don't count myself amongst the great athletes in the world, but I do count myself as a person who looks out for troubleshooting. One of the issues you'll find, the higher you go, the harder it is to stay healthy. And if your base camp operation isn't very sanitary, then chances are it's really easy for you to get sick. And so climbing with Lawang and Lakpa, and then having Pasong and his brother Pemba around, constant eye on safety and sanitation, and that's basically what makes it easier to stay healthy. And that in turn, by the end of the trip, you're down to probably 60% as strong as you would be normally. But if you're healthy and your 60% is good enough to get on up there, you probably make it. I think that's precisely how I made it.
Now this here is Dawa. This is our base camp cook, which means that I'm probably filming this.
You are.
Because as I've told all of you guys in some past episodes, I had stayed down at base camp when Ben and Lawang and the rest of the Sherpas went up to advanced base camp. Well, I ended up joining them about almost a week later. So this is footage that Dawa and I and Pemba and Bertrand and Alan all came up to advanced base camp. And so we were just kind of showing what some of the life was like. And what I recall is that the Sherpas didn't really like to sleep on the ground on pads. They liked to sleep on these stone beds. So they spent a lot of time making these permanent sleeping platforms. And several of the guys would crash in these every night. They put their thermarest pads or whatnot over them to insulate them, but otherwise they were just sort of like, full or queen size stone sleeping platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you from experience, those stones are a lot heavier above 6,000 meters. That Sherpa ingenuity. He
That's
just
right.
made a chair.
Well, that's just what you do. You just take what you got there and build a couch.
Yep.
Best way to get along in the mountains is to look around you and think about creatively what can we make that'll, how can we sit?
So what you're also looking at here is the larger tent. A couple episodes ago I talked about we switched tents out and we brought a larger tent up for the cooking tent and eating tent. And so this is the larger tent. It was a lot more spacious, and so it gave everyone a lot more room, and that stayed up there.
Yeah, that was a good tent.
he was tired after that.
Huge, yeah, that's a lot of rock to move.
You might be at 21,000 feet, but the one thing you can escape most of the rest of the world, but the one thing you cannot escape is clutter.
Yeah, impossible. Impossible.
So this is the view that I saw my first full day up there. That
Not
was
bad, huh?
no, not bad at all.
More tents. It's like a giant. It reminds me a lot of Telluride. Now that I think about it, it's like, I used to think, oh, it reminds me of San Francisco. Everything's stocked, one on top of the other, and that's kind of how the place I live now is. It's a little box canyon in Colorado, and wherever you can build, there's something there. Just like wherever at Everest Advanced Base Camp on Everest, wherever you can set a tent.
Yeah.
Thusly, there you have it.
There you go, right there in that shot right there. So this footage, Ben is starting to climb to the North Col, and so this was getting a little bit of elevation. He hadn't really started climbing yet. I want to point out that this footage was shot by the Royal Navy and Royal Marines expedition.
Who are
Jake
great
was,
folks.
yeah, grateful. Jake was shooting this stuff. We all became really close, and they had a few issues with their laptop computers, so I came to their rescue. Well, I think it was their rescue. These are actually their summit team right here, heading up the North Col, probably for the first time.
Crazy Brits, and those guys were so much fun. Wow.
But what you can see here is you can see what it's like to climb. Is this pretty typical of what it's like to climb, Ben?
Pretty much. I mean, not very fast, not super high action oriented. Just kind of hours of ambling along, trying to acclimatize and get used to the altitude, thin air.
For those people who aren't real climbers in our audience, Ben, what is he using there?
He is using what is called a GMAR, and what that device does, it's an ascender essentially, more layman's terms. And what he's doing is he is sliding it up the rope, and there are teeth on the end of it that engage the rope so that should he let go, he could lean back and those teeth would cam. You can actually see kind of the device there, the blue section that's over the rope. Those teeth would cam onto the rope, thus just, holding on to it, clutching it. And then, if he leans back, stays in. If he goes forward, it goes forward.
I haven't got much breath to talk. Richard's got a blue Peter badge on. He could probably talk more.
Well, we're here now at 6,700 metres on the North Col, and we're just about to start the ice pitch, which is the hardest part of the North Col. You'll see Dave and Rich tackle the ice pitch quite easily, and they'll be showing it in textbook style. So take note of the following clip.
Jay, you're a top bloke. I'll see you at Camp 4, mate.
I love how British these guys are. Earlier in it, so that was Jake, the photographer. That's probably the only shot you really get of him from this footage. But he was the main climber right there in front. That's Dave, and Dave mentioned that he was wearing a Blue Peter badge. And Blue Peter, as I understand it, is a children's television program in the UK, and they were sort of providing, not necessarily footage, but they were kind of taking kids along on the climb vicariously through them by setting back footage, and it was going to be on this children's television show, which has been on the air for like 50 years.
Wow.
They were pretty proud to be associated with it because I think they all grew up with it themselves. And Blue Peter, I think, is a nautical flag, and so this being the Royal Navy, it was a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
They had quite a base camp, and
Yes.
you'll see their base camp in detail because I spent a lot of time over there, and we all became very, very good friends, and I'm going to try to get some of them on the show in the next few months, particularly their PR person, Fee. She was one of the only women that I got to know during this whole expedition, so it'll be good to hear from her, and we've been talking. She's going to be excited to be on the show, so hopefully she can make it. You can see how slow going it can be to climb at first.
Yeah, it is not a race.
Now, Ben, did you always carry your sleeping pads up and down, or did you cache them up high?
I think I left it at 23 the first time, and then from then on out carried it. Because we had that huge windstorm that came after we'd carried it up there that about blew everything off.
So you can start to see how crowded it could be on the route, and this is a taste of things to come, huh, Ben?
Absolutely. It is not a place where one might go to find themselves alone.
Not a very solitary place.
No. If you're looking for a wilderness experience, you are better to go to somewhere else.
Now this footage right here is shot by our Russian friends. This was shot by, I believe, Vova from the St. Petersburg expedition. And he shot right here, that Sherpa right in the lower corner, that was Boca. And then in the middle here, descending, passing these climbers, is Dawachiri.
Больше месяца назад
Yep.
мы
Dawa coming
проложили
down.
этот путь.
Actually, I can recognize the Russian voice. The photographer here is actually Andre.
Первый раз. Сейчас это пятый выход. Вот что Шерпак. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, Dawa, hey! Just cruising on by. Not a problem.
So they were probably coming down from making a carry up there, weren't they, Ben?
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Все экспедиции.
Do you know how many times they went up and down?
И желание.
I don't know. I mean, they kept just kind of going up and down a lot.
Can you explain what a carry is?
Carry is when you take gear that you'd like to use on the upper mountain, up the mountain, and put it somewhere, leave it there, so you don't have to carry it back up there next time. And the way we had climbed the mountain was expedition style. There's several different styles. Expedition style means that essentially we're making a carry to a higher camp, leaving gear, coming to a lower camp and sleeping, and then moving to that camp the next time, and then doing the same process over again until we get to the highest camp. Usually to stock, maybe an extra sleeping bag, oxygen, tents, what have you, so that you can just ferry between camps, which being heavy-handed like that is good for acclimatization because you're always climbing the mountain, becoming familiar with the route, and understanding sort of the techniques that you need to apply on Everest that are not necessarily unique, but it definitely has its own deal going about it because of all the people and sort of the logistical route work that has to occur in order to make it safe and all the other stuff that goes in. So it's a mountain you're going to become familiar with because you're going to walk and climb it a few times before you actually go for the summit, making all those carries.
But first you have to get to the North Col before you can get up higher.
First you go here.
So this is...
you usually feel awful.
Yeah, so this is about 23,000 feet, and you can really see the route ahead of you here.
It's long. It's like a 3,000-foot day right there, between 23 and 26,000 feet. I'm on most of the world's highest mountains. I mean, the other 8,000-meter peaks, you would be only going as far as that high ridge went, that ramp, and then that would be your summit, but not on Everest.
Right.
You got a lot more.
Well, thanks a lot for joining me on this episode, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
It's always great to get the climber's perspective. I'm really glad to have you guys and Lawang when he can make it in on the show, because I did not go above Advanced Base Camp. I need to make that very clear. There was never any intention of me going higher than Advanced Base Camp. So anything up high here is going to be shot either by Ben or by Jake or by Andre or by Vova. So it was a whole international crew pitching in to get footage of the higher reaches of the mountain. And next episode, we do get higher in the mountain. We go up to that next highest point, which is about 25,000 feet, 26,000 feet, Ben.
Uh-huh.
It kind of changes into meters. You'll hear us mention certain elevations in meters because the upper reaches of the mountain are really referred to as by their elevation in meters. So we're going to change probably in the next episode from feet to meters. So stay tuned for that, everyone. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywu.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.